okay, this is a career that I can actually follow, or it's a path, a career path that I could follow. And if they want, they can get in touch with you guys later on for some more advice or even mentorship or whatever. So that's the whole idea. So I'll just be asking questions, and please just answer them as frankly as you can, but also with the Day Lewis twist in terms of how Day Lewis has helped all of you. So although you've got your preset questions, but apart from that, is also I'll then be asking some follow-up questions on that. And actually, we'll just have a general conversation about pharmacy, Day Lewis, and you guys being in practice for a while now. What is your advice to some of our new our trainee pharmacists? Because Emma is actually a foundation trainee pharmacist. Is that correct, Emma? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I'm employed by Dorset Healthcare. So I'm halfway through my foundation training now. Yeah,
so she's probably keenly listening to everything we're saying and taking every word of it. So with her colleagues. So we just want to showcase Day Lewis. It's a new venture, and hopefully, if this works, then maybe something that we can do on a yearly basis. So let's watch this space. So that's really what it is. I don't know if any of you've got any questions you want to ask or anything before we let we last week, the last time we had it, we had probably roughly about, how many people do we have again? We had about, what was it, about under 20?
I think it was about 20, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't massive amounts of students, but the good thing is this webinar is actually being recorded. So as you all know, with students, they probably would prefer to just watch the recording, bearing in mind that there's also a football match tonight. So we know that some people probably won't bother to come, but hopefully they will listen to it later on and at least still find it useful. So and Jill is there, as I said, she's going to support in terms of any questions that come in through the chat. And also from time to time, I'll also drag her into some of the questions and ask for her opinion too, because she's also got experience as a pharmacist who's been qualified for a number of years. So I don't know if any of you have got any questions you want to ask, or if you're all good to go.
No, let's go.
All right, so the other thing I just want to quickly show you is just to see, I'm going to share my screen. Yes, I think that's the one. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can
I
see.
need to put it on slideshow though, don't I?
Okay, do you want us like on mute and then you speak to us one at a time, or are you happy to have us all kind of engage at the same time?
Oh, what I'll do is I'll ask questions. I'll probably first of all say, okay, Kaz, X, Y, and Z, what do you feel? How is that? And then once he's answered that question, then I'll then go to, if there's a follow-on question, I'll ask depending on Kaz's response, and then I'll go to the next person. It could be you, Nitika, and then he'll ask you your question, and then I'll go again to Sharia, and then what I'll then do is bring everybody in, and then I'll probably ask a follow-on question, a general question, and ask for your different opinion of the question. So
Sure.
This is what is hopefully what we're going to be doing for today. I'll just literally go through the house rules with the trainees, not trainees, with the pharmacy audience, which is pharmacy students, as I said. But again, you never know who's in the audience anyway. So, and then intros. So I'll get you guys to just briefly introduce yourselves again to our audience. And then after that, I will then throw the questions to you. And then after that, I'll then ask the audience for any questions. In most cases, they'll probably just put it in the chat. With Jill's help, we'll be able to pick up those questions as we go along. And then vote of thanks, hopefully by 8:30. We did finish on time last time, so hopefully this time around we'll also finish on time. And then it's just the video itself, introduction to members. So as I said, you guys will just literally introduce yourself to the panel members, questions from the audience, and then again, just to sort of see your pretty faces again, and then your details there. You guys are all happy for me to, I think you all said you're happy for me to share your email addresses. Is that, am I still correct with that?
Yeah, just remember, Ade, mine's incorrect on there.
It's always this one, isn't it?
Are the only one in Day Lewis. I thought I could get away with it.
No, what is wrong with me?
Surname also is incorrect.
Jeez. Okay. Let's just. I'm
So no,
gonna.
the first, no, you spelled my first name. You've spelled it correctly. It's just the email address that's wrong. So
The
surname
surname
is,
was correct, was it?
yeah, Kapur.
Kapeur.
No.
Kaeeur.
No, there's no E. Kapur.
Oh, jeez. Is that correct now?
Yep. And then
And
the
then I
email.
put, where did I get Patel from? Jeez. Sorry, I'm trying to.
No, it's
correct you.
because I think you just put down Nikita on the Day Lewis, and then somebody else who's called Nikita, their email just dropped down.
Is that what is happening?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what happened.
Okay, so is it dot?
So go all the way back. You want to start again. So go back again. Keep editing. Keep editing. Keep editing. Right. Start again. So NITI.
TIKA.
That's it. Dot.
Yeah.
KAPUR. There you go. Rest is correct.
And that's it now, yeah?
That's it. Yeah.
Then. My sincere apologies once again.
No problem, Ade.
Please forgive me.
No problem.
Because I know what it's like sometimes when your name is spelled wrong. I think I've lived my entire life with that.
Yeah, I think you're the first one in Day Lewis that got it wrong. I thought
Yeah,
I
I
got
know.
away with it.
There's always got to be one, isn't there? There
Yeah.
always has to be one, and it turned out to be me. Okay, so that's what we hope to do. And as I said, hopefully we can finish on time. So
Emma, just quickly, would you be able to make me co-host so I can answer questions in the chat as we go?
Yeah, I'll do that now.
Lovely, thank you.
and is there anything else, Emma, that we need to do, or that
No, we can make a start. I'll just introduce myself first to the audience, and then you guys can go in turns as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All
So
right, then.
hi everyone, thanks for joining us this evening for this webinar with Day Lewis on career advancement and progression in community pharmacy. I'm Emma and I'm the BPSA competitions coordinator, and we've got pharmacists from Day Lewis joining us tonight.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Emma. And so thank you for attending this webinar. This is the second of the webinar that we are organizing with BPSA. And we are happy and glad to be here. My name is Adenola Olaide. I'm the Foundation Trainee Manager. I look after the Foundation the trainee pharmacist program in Day Lewis. So hopefully when all of you or some of you who are still pharmacy students, or if you're doing your foundation training at the moment, you know what role that is. And hopefully for those of you who are pharmacy students and will be looking to do your foundation training next year, if you come to Day Lewis, I will be looking after you if you come to us. My colleague, Dr. Caroline Parkhurst, is a professional services pharmacist, and she is not here today. But we sort of developed this program together with Emma from BPSA. So today we're going to be looking at Day Lewis as a company and what are the career opportunities in Day Lewis and how you can advance your career in Day Lewis. Very excited. We've got three experienced colleagues here who are going to be talking about their journey in Day Lewis. But before we start, we've got the housekeeping rules. So please, if you're not talking at all, please, if you could put yourself on mute so that we don't actually interrupt the program. And then also, if you need to ask any questions, I've got my colleague Jill who will be answering questions in the chat. And also we can discuss any other questions that need to be after the panel session. If you need to ask, or if you feel brave enough and you want to come on, please just use the function and the Zoom taskbar, and that would help you. The session is being recorded, so for some of your colleagues who are not here today and would like to listen to this program or watch it, please let them know that it's being recorded, and I'm sure Emma would make the video available to all of you. And then at the end of the session, we'll have our panelist details up there for you, in case you want to contact any of them after the session. So let's actually start now by having a short introduction of all our panel members. So you get to know who they are. And then obviously we will go into the question and answer session. So I'm going to start off here with Kaz. And Kaz, do you want to come on and please introduce yourself to our panel or to our audience, please?
Hi everyone, my name's Kaz. I'm a regional pharmacist manager based in South London.
Thank you very much, Kaz. And I'm going to go to Nitika, who is also going to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I am Nitika. I have worked for Day Lewis for almost 10 years and I'm currently a teacher practitioner at UCM. Thank
you very much. And I'm going to call on to Styria, who is also going to introduce herself.
Thanks, Eddie. Hi everyone, my name's Shreya. I have a couple of roles with Day Lewis. I teach and I lead the early pharmacist program. I also am part of the pharmacy services team, as well as working a couple of days in practice as well.
Thank you very much. And at the background, we've got my abled right-hand woman. Jill, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself too?
Hi, so I'm Jill Mearwood and I work for Day Lewis alongside Addy as a supporting the Foundation Pharmacists, and I'm also work at the University of Reading as on the independent prescribing course. So I can always answer questions about that as well. So as I'll be manning the chat, so I'll hopefully answer any of your questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, guys. So as you can see, we've got a vast range of experienced pharmacists here today who are available to answer any questions that you have, ranging from early career as a pharmacist to being an independent prescriber and on any other services that you that is being provided in community pharmacy. So having done that brief introduction, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to throw some questions to our panelists, and they are going to try as much as possible to answer those questions for us. And if you, during this time, when they're answering any questions, if you do have any further questions you want to ask, please put it in the chat. And as I said, if not, you can come on and ask a question once we finish the questions to all the three panelists. So let's start then. Let's get this show on the road. So my first question is going to go to Kaz. And Kaz, what sort of you're an independent prescriber? Is that's correct, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what actually motivated you to become an independent prescriber? What was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so I did the independent prescribing course a few years back, and really I did it because I could see that the trend was that eventually all pharmacists would have to do the qualification. So I wanted to do it early so that I could then support my pharmacists who I manage when they do their course. And yeah, now they're all going through it, I'm able to help them with tips and help them with my notes and things. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to do it. Another reason was I wanted the experience of working in a GP practice, because as part of the course, you work 90 hours under the supervision of the GP, designated supervisor. And I wanted to understand how GPs worked better. And I wanted to understand how community pharmacies can support GPs better and take the burden off them. And really, yeah, it's helped me a lot because I've been able to support them much better, the GPs close to me, and I've improved the collaboration between our pharmacies and the GPs locally. So it's improved patient outcomes, definitely.
Right. Well, that's so it's a case of you having that foresight to actually know that independent prescribing is going to become a big thing, and I suppose you actually did this before the change in the GPHC standards for all our School of Pharmacies, where now School of Pharmacies need to make sure that they change their program so that the the students graduate with an independent prescribing qualification. So that's really good for you to have that kind of foresight, and you were able to see what was going on in the world of the GP land. But the other thing I just wanted to know, because I know you said you wanted to do it, but what role did Day-Lewis play to enable you achieve this qualification? Because, you know, it's one thing to want to do it, it's another thing for your employer to actually support you and tell you to go for it.
Yeah. So Day-Lewis funded the course and gave me the training time for it. And now they're funding all the pharmacists to do the qualification. So I think that's quite unique. And I think with Day-Lewis as well, after I completed the course, I worked part-time in the GP practice. And so Day-Lewis actually supports split working patterns and portfolio working. And I think that, I don't think any of the other multiples do that. So I think that's a really unique thing for Day-Lewis, and a unique position they have.
Oh, that's really good. So would you say that support, even though you've got the qualification, what you're saying there is the support of your employer of Day-Lewis for you to be able to go out there and actually practice what you've actually been learning is vital, is it?
Yeah, so I was working part-time, so like a day a week in a GP practice, and I know there's a few other pharmacists in the company who are doing that at the moment. And I think Day-Lewis understand the benefits it brings for pharmacists, for their career progression, and how it improves the collaboration between the pharmacy and the GP practice locally.
Interesting. Thank you very much. That's really interesting. I'm still quite fascinated on, although I'm an independent prescriber myself, and I did mine much more earlier before it became what it is now. But the other thing I just wanted to maybe tell our panelists, our audience, is again, if you could describe your experience of working as an IP into our audience. What is it like? I know you've touched on one or two of the benefits, but what is it actually like for our audience to have a feel, for them to feel as if I'm doing this is what it feel like? You know, what's your experience of it?
So I think when I was in the GP practice, so the day-to-day activities were things like medicines reconciliations. I was doing structured medication reviews. I was prescribing, so doing repeat medicine prescribing. And then really my main sort of activities were long-term conditions. So that was my focus. So my specialities were hypertension and asthma. But what I've seen now is that a lot of the services and the things I was doing in the GP practice, we're now doing the community pharmacy. So for example, hypertension case finding service, which was launched about a year or so ago, that's when the pharmacy team screen patients who are 40 years old and are undiagnosed with hypertension. We do the blood pressures in the community pharmacy. If they're high, we then do an ABPM, so 24-hour blood pressure report, and send it to the GP. So there's a lot of interesting service happening in community pharmacy, and even in the next year or so, the conception service will start. So that service will build upon different levels, and eventually the end point will be prescribing at community pharmacy of contraceptions, and pill checks being done in community pharmacy. So I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities for community pharmacy. I'm seeing a lot of the roles that I was doing there in GP practice are now coming into community pharmacy.
That's interesting. So when you look at your journey, really, when you first started as an IP, a lot of those innovative services were being done purely in the GP land. And then as things begin to develop, you're now seeing a migration of those into community pharmacy. And you'll then be able to use your IP experience to actually make sure you can deliver those services to a higher level, and that, from what you're saying, is the way and the future of community pharmacy. Would you say that's the correct analysis of what's going on?
For sure. So like all like the hypertension case for myself, because I was managing hypertension in the GP practice, when we implemented that service in my pharmacies, I was able to support my pharmacists, explain to them the right counselling and the lifestyle advice, and yeah, I can definitely see in the not so near future actual hypertension service, like hypertension prescribing being done in community pharmacy, so antihypertensives being done there, long-term condition management in community pharmacy. I think that will come in the next few years. And just other service we do in our pharmacy. So we do an INR service, an anticoagulant service. So we test the blood of patients on warfarin, and then check how thin the blood is, and then subsequently dose the warfarin and the dose. So that's another thing we do. And we also do ear microsuction. So we examine the ear using a special otoscope with which has an iPhone attached to it. And we examine the ear, and then we remove, if there's wax present, we remove the wax using like a special device, like a mini vacuum cleaner. So I think there's a lot of exciting things in community pharmacy, and yeah, definitely helps having that GP experience as well.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Kaz. So from what you're saying there is, even when you qualify as an independent prescriber, you don't really need to go into a GP practice in future to actually practice as an independent prescriber. A lot of these things you can actually do in community pharmacy anyway, which is probably where this whole thing is going to sit after a while, when we have so many of these. And that is probably a good point for our audience to actually bear in mind, that it's not just in a GP land that you're going to use that skill and qualification, but you can also use it in community pharmacy, which obviously you are doing increasingly now. So that's really, really good. So thank you very much. I'll probably still come back to you on the IP side of things, because I know our audience will probably be keen to know more in terms of what you do, and probably hear a view from Jill also, who teaches IP in the universities. But for now, thank you very much, Kaz.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to our next panelist, who is Nitika. Nitika is another pharmacist in Day Lewis. So Nitika, how are you? I'm
good, thank you, Ade. Just finished work after a busy day.
Yes, as always, we all have. And again, thank you very much for spending some time to come and talk to our audience. You've actually been a pharmacist for a number of years now, and you did your pre-registration training, I should call it, which is now foundation training with Day Lewis, and you've stayed with us actually, and you've actually now, as you said, you're actually one of your roles, really. I know you were a bit modest initially. One of your roles is actually teacher practitioner. So would you want to just tell our audience how that journey has evolved from, when you were a trainee pharmacist, pre-reg at the time, early career pharmacist, in the early career of your early path of your career, up to now, where you are actually now a teacher practitioner teaching pharmacy students the ropes of the business, as they say.
Yeah, no, of course. So, gosh, where do I start? So, yes, I've been qualified for a while now, so long that they've actually changed the name of the training. So, yes, I did my pre-reg with Day Lewis, which was an amazing year that I had. I can't explain how many things that I learned and the support that I had whilst I was learning. I was really quite fortunate. I was given a lot of responsibilities. The company was quite trusting with their trainee pharmacist, should I call it. I was helped and given responsibility in managing the dispensaries. The pharmacist, saw me as their assistant. So I wasn't just there to train, I was there to, be a pharmacist at the same time. So I was involved in actually setting up a lot of the services that the pharmacy were doing. So at the time, things like new medication service, smoking cessation service, those things were quite new at the time. So I was quite fortunate as to be involved into running up the services in the pharmacies. I had a lot of opportunities to carry out consultations with patients, which again at the time wasn't very, wasn't very common. But now in terms of my skill set as to how relevant it was a real good, stepping stone. And I think Day Lewis could kind of envision that future as to where pharmacy was going, which is why I was fortunate enough to be able to get an insight into having, one-on-one consultations in the consultation room with patients. And I really they gave me the opportunity to seize every moment. So every opportunity I had to learn, I used to like utilize that as well as I could. And I was just quite fortunate that the company, you know, recognised the hard work that as a trainee pharmacist I was putting in. So I was quite fortunate to be offered a position to start my pharmacy career with them. And when that happened, I was given my own branch, so I became pharmacist manager, which again was a really challenging role that I got given, but a great opportunity. So again, I had scope to learn so many more things. I learned how to manage a team. I sort of learned how to, you know, kind of help my own community, because being a community pharmacist, you're there to look after the community fundamentally. So it was really nice to be a part of that. And to again start up all those services, so starting up a travel clinic, and lots of private services that pharmacies can now provide to our patients. I then, from the pharmacist manager, became a regional pharmacist manager, so similar to Kaz, which fundamentally is there to support the other pharmacists within our company. So it's a really, you know, unique role that Day Lewis have as a company. It enables us to go around to other pharmacies. We're able to help other pharmacists and pharmacy teams, just support them, help them with the running of their pharmacy, and also just really to help the pharmacists with any problems that they might be having in the pharmacy, helping them set up new services. You know, it can be very daunting. Pharmacies continuously changing all the time. So it's just helping pharmacists, giving them that support, holding their hand, to help them kind of, you know, embrace these new services that, you know, we're being asked to do. We're also able to help support them integrate with the GP practices. So like Kaz was saying, you know, Day Lewis are quite, you know, strong on us building relationships with other healthcare professionals. So it also allows us to do that with the pharmacists, helping them with their local GP practices. And then that eventually led me on to then my next role, which is what I do now as a teacher practitioner. So I think as my passion just grew for pharmacy, and helping others and supporting others, just grew my passion in terms of wanting to teach young pharmacy students, because fundamentally they're the, you know, future for pharmacy really for us. So I just wanted them to teach them good practice. I wanted them to be a better version of all of us pharmacists that we are now, because the role that they have in healthcare going forward is, you know, it's really, really strong. So we want them to be the best that they can be. And I just kind of wanted to incorporate those skills that we can teach the pharmacy students earlier on in their careers, to start them from university stage before they actually get onto their training year. And Day Lewis were really good at supporting me with that. They saw the passion that we had, so kind of wanted to persevere with that.
Excellent. That's one hell of a journey, really, and it's all about being there to be able to seize the opportunity. From what you're saying, also, it looks as if Day Lewis has been instrumental in making sure that this happens for you, and you've just built on that. Could you just, I know you've mentioned it briefly, but could you maybe just expand a bit more about what role in particular Day Lewis actually offered you? Because again, maybe not all employers would actually be comfortable for you to go to, for example, you're a teacher practitioner now and you're spending 3 days away from the pharmacy, teaching in the School of Pharmacy, and you're only spending 2 days in the store. Not a lot of providers or employers will be happy for you to do that. They'd rather you are actually in the store. So what role do you think Day Lewis actually played in when you look at your journey all the way from peerage to where you are now?
Yes, a really good question. I think, again, Day Lewis are really good at, you know, wanting to help people grow in their careers, because they understand, you know, it's a family-owned business as well. So they also understand that we've got those same similar values. They've got those family values. They understand that we are people who, you know, we've got dreams and aspirations, and Day Lewis just enable you and give you that platform to do that. So, for example, having these pre-reg students or trainee pharmacists, once we've been training them, they're seeing them evolve, they're seeing them on their journeys. And I think Day Lewis understood how influential we were in pharmacy students' journeys. So when I took interest in the teacher practitioner role, I think they understood that I wanted to be in a role where I could help influence pharmacy students, but also bring that name to Day Lewis to them. So I'm really proud and honoured to be working for Day Lewis. So I kind of wanted to actually promote their name and promote community pharmacy, because, you know, like our slogan is, we're not just a pharmacy, there's so much more to community pharmacy. So I think Day Lewis wanted me to be in that position where I could actually, you know, educate others and, you know, build our own brand and, you know, build up the name of community pharmacy so people really understand what it is that we do. So I think Day Lewis was quite happy for me to incorporate that alongside working in the pharmacy. So not only able to help the community, but really able to help our pharmacy students.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. That's an important point in terms of Day Lewis giving you the flexibility, the belief in you, for you to actually go out there, do what you need to do, promote the company, but most importantly, promote the profession itself to the youngsters and pharmacy students who are actually out there. And as myself, as a teacher practitioner, also, I definitely know the importance of pharmacy students seeing role models and being able to actually approach us, ask questions, and we'll be able to guide them, especially when it comes to maybe making their choices in terms of oral and even career choices after their foundation training. So, and just one more question, Nitika, and that is actually, what would you say are the skills that you think our audience should have if they want to follow your career path? I mean, they want to literally do everything you've done. What do you think they need to have, or what kind of skills should they start building on so that they can actually have that, they can follow your career path that you set out for us nicely?
Yeah, so it's a, you know, numerous amount of skills that, again, you do acquire over time and experience. I fundamentally say, you know, excellent communication skills is really important. You've got to use those skills not only with your team members, but with patients, GPs, and lots of other healthcare professionals now as well. You've got to have a really good work ethic. So, you know, you've got to work hard, but you've got to have the right values whilst you're working hard. So, like I mentioned, Day Lewis is quite a family-orientated company. So, again, we are looking after families and we're looking after our communities. So, I think always putting patients first and, you know, looking after the community is really important. Being a team player always gets you really, really far. So I think, you know, working hard and having a passion in what you do, striving to learn and to do well, I think they're probably the key things that I'd say can get you really, really far.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's probably some really good advice for our audience to bear in mind. So thank you very much, Nitika. We'll come back to you later on. Okay, so my next panel member is Sharia, who is also a pharmacist at Day Lewis. And Sharia, thank you very much for attending this webinar. And I'd just like to ask you just a few questions, really, in terms of your career. You also did your PREG, known as foundation training at Day Lewis. So obviously Day Lewis must be doing something right for our pharmacists to stay. And that is really good to show. And could you actually please tell our audience because I know you do quite a few things and you work on a few projects. If you could please describe to our audience what you do at Day Lewis and how your career has evolved working as a pharmacist in Day Lewis.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you for having me. So like you mentioned, I did also start my journey with Day Lewis when I was a pre-reg. And once I had qualified, I was a relief pharmacist for a couple of years, in which I sort of worked out my likes, my dislikes, how I was sort of finding my feet as a pharmacist. And I thought that was really important skill to develop early on. I think we have a lot of students have a misconception that the first thing they want to do as soon as they qualify is become a pharmacist manager. And I think that's great if you're confident and you have those skills to do so. But for myself, I really wanted to spend a bit of time actually being a pharmacist and getting comfortable with being in that environment. So starting as a relief was a really good learning opportunity for myself. I then moved on to be a pharmacist manager, where I was managing my own team, looking after my own patients, again, contributing to the community the best I could, similar to Nitika. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I became the lead for our Day Lewis newly qualified pharmacist program. So this program actually supports pharmacists post-qualification. And this is a really unique program that Day Lewis actually provides. I think it's one of the very, very few community pharmacy companies which provide this program and support to newly qualified pharmacists. So we provide support, guidance, mentoring in the form of personal development, professional development, and even management training. And that's what we condense down into the first 1,000 days of practice as a qualified pharmacist. So that's what I do. I meet and I help train and guide and mentor those pharmacists in their early stages of their career. I'm sure a lot of people, especially, I think all of us on this call can sort of agree, when we first qualified, it was very, very daunting. You're sort of let out there as a newly qualified pharmacist, and you just have to fend for yourself. You really don't know what to do, how to manage your branch, are you doing the correct things, how to do services, all these kind of things that crop up, which you don't really get taught. So that's the support that we provide to our newly qualified pharmacists. Another role which I do, which is my most recent role that I've taken on, is being part of the pharmacy services team for Day Lewis. And within this, I write and I review the PGD services that our pharmacists are able to conduct in their pharmacies. This is a really new role that I've taken on, something which I'm thoroughly enjoying. The PGDs has always been a really sort of passion of mine from when I was a pre-reg. It was always something that I was very much interested in. I was always shadowing my tutor at the time of the various services that we could provide to allow patients with a bit more flexibility, and giving us the flexibility to support our patients the best we can when providing things like PGD services. So at the moment, I am writing and reviewing new PGDs for the company. I'm not sure if anybody or if anyone knows here that Day Lewis is actually CQC registered, which means that we write and provide our own PGDs. So we do our own PGDs for the company, as well as providing it to other companies as well who buy into our PGDs, which is very exciting.
Excellent. There seems to be that you're doing quite a lot of this and that, and from what I can gather, it seems as, again, the Day Lewis has given you, just like with Nitika, Day Lewis has given you the opportunity to flourish, and also give you that opportunity and the confidence that you need to be able to execute all of these projects that you're doing. What I would like to ask you though is, what advice would you give our audience who, again, similar to Nitika, want to follow your path, but are not necessarily sure how to go about it? What would you give them in terms of advice, or what would you say to them that they need to start working on, so that they can actually start having that sort of skill and experience that you have?
I think I would partly agree with Nitika. I'd like to emulate what she says, in the sense of it's important to be a team player, to have that dedication to what you're doing, understand the fundamentals of being a pharmacist, of working within the community, and then build on all these different aspects, whether it be your communication skills, whether, you know, it may be going into writing, or teaching. So a lot of these skills that I have are actually can be transferred over to the PGDs that I write, as well as the teaching that I do. I think it's also really important to find out what your likes and dislikes are. I think some people have a big misconception that community pharmacy means that we just work in a pharmacy and we just provide medicines and we just dispense from prescriptions. I think between the three of us, or everybody on this call, we can all demonstrate that, yes, that is a big part of our role, but there are so many different things that we can do. So I think it's important to just explore those different avenues. And by working out what your likes and dislikes are, you're more likely to just flourish in things that you actually enjoy. So I think it's important to just find out what you enjoy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And from what our panelists has actually said, it looks as if there's a lot of opportunities in community pharmacy right now. And if you compare to about 10 years ago, where there weren't much opportunities, now there seems to be quite a lot, especially within Day Lewis, because we are there's always that opportunity for pharmacists to actually do all the things like you were saying, like a PGD and all these other projects that you're working on. So thank you so much for that too, for sharing your experience so far with us. So that's the questions that I'm actually going to ask, but I'm still going to now just throw some questions just across the board to our panelists, and I'm just wanted to go back to the independent prescribing, and I know Kaz has talked about the independent prescribing, but I would like to hear Nitika's view on independent prescribing, whether you think that is actually a good idea, and if it is, how do you see that developing in the next few years, not just from a Day Lewis perspective, but just for community pharmacy in general?
Yeah, so in terms of the independent prescribing course, I also did it myself. So similar to Kaz, I thought I would, almost jump on the bandwagon, could see where it was going. So if they're going to incorporate something like the IP course into these pharmacy students' degree now, that is telling us there is huge scope for pharmacists to be using this. And genuinely in community pharmacy at the moment, like Shreya was mentioning, these PGDs. So for those of you that don't know what a PGD is, they're private services that we provide to our patients, where we can give prescription-only medication to patients without a prescription. So we are already giving out a lot of medications that are normally on a prescription. Okay, so the difference is that the patient has to pay for it. So in terms of being a prescriber, most of these consultations that we do, once we are all qualified prescribers, it will be something where we can give these medications just on a prescription, as opposed to patients having to pay for them privately. Also, we deal with a lot of referrals from GPs, and we do referrals from NHS 111. And this is where the pharmacist conducts a consultation with the patient, and again, gives advice and potentially sells a medication or does a private service. These referrals are they're growing. We're getting more of them each week. And this is highly likely where a lot of, I think, our prescribing roles are going to be integrated. So instead of needing to see the doctor, they see the pharmacist. If it's a minor ailment or a condition that, a pharmacist is able to use their own clinical acumen skills to deal with, then I think that's where a lot of our prescribing is going to come into practice that way.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I couldn't agree with you more, because that is exactly what, how I see things also developing. Shreya, what's your take on independent prescribing, and what would you share with our audience also in terms of your view and how you see that developing in the future?
I think this is the way forward. I mean, I'm doing my qualification at the moment, so I'm in the midst of it. So it's by doing these extra qualifications, we're giving our patients more accessibility, which I think is really important at the moment. As we know, there's so many hurdles patients need to go through to see their GPs, to get appointments. We all know that's a complete nightmare. And if we can sort of remove those hurdles and remove those barriers and create a bit more accessibility to patients, I think by doing that, we can provide for our community much better. So if we're able to take on those skills, it's a plus all round.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And as you rightly said, we don't need to keep sending patients to see their GP. As pharmacists, we actually would be able to actually attend to the patients, and if there's a need to prescribe, we'll prescribe. Nowadays, anyway, we have access to the summary care records, where we can see patients' details. And I'm sure in another few years' time, we will have the ability to read and write on those records. So we're actually also entering the information on the patient's record as we actually speaking and having that interaction with them. These are all the opportunities that I believe we can actually see. I'm going to actually ask, I know Jill is not part of the panel, but I think we can also tap into Jill's experience as someone who is actually teaching independent prescribing in one of the schools of pharmacy.
Oh, sorry, I was typing away, so I wasn't quite listening there, Adi. So talking about independent prescribing as
yes. That in terms of how, what's your take as from the view of someone who's actually teaching this to pharmacy students?
I just think it's a really amazing skill to actually have. I don't think as a pharmacist, and when you're practicing, just normally as a pharmacist, you kind of think, oh, prescribing is quite easy. I could just amend this prescription, I can amend that prescription. But when you do the independent prescribing course and you find about all the hidden agendas when thinking about prescribing, so all the factors and the patient factors, the human the primary evidence, the legal, the ethical issues, the cost implications, the patient-centered care, and making sure you make that shared decision when prescribing. Actually, it's something quite bigger than just thinking, oh, I can just prescribe for that. And it also prepares you to think about your diagnostic skills as well. And I think by doing the prescribing course and focusing in on one subject area, as Kaz was mentioning, he was asthma and hypertension, you just really do become quite skilled and thinking about diagnosing, and that really helps in community pharmacy, in a community pharmacy setting, which then enables us at some point, I think very much in the future, where as an independent prescriber we will be just prescribing, doing the minor elements like a mini GP. And I think that's the way it's moving. So it's really an exciting time for the profession. So I think it's really important that as pharmacists now, as new pharmacists, that the attendees will be, that they'll end up having to do an independent prescribing course. But I think it's really beneficial to their careers and their development as clinical practitioners to be able to do that. And I just think it's really, really important. And then to support the younger pharmacists coming through by being DPPs for them as qualified independent prescribers, so which I assume Kaz, Sharia and Nitika will all be, as well as probably taking on roles as designated supervisors for our foundation students as well. So, but it's just really important. But by doing the course, you just gather those skills, and I think it will definitely make us better practitioners and more patient-centered care. If that answered it.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think it's important that our audience actually appreciate and understand that even though they're doing their prescribing course as part of their degree course, and once they qualify, there's still a long way to go in terms of when they start practicing as pharmacists, that they're not necessarily going to be straight away pen and paper, start prescribing and all that kind of stuff. But as a company, Day Lewis is there to actually support and actively encourage pharmacists to actually look for roles within Day Lewis and actually able to start their be able to use their skills that they've learned whilst they were actually doing the prescribing course in the university. Now, I'm going to now just wrap up with just a general question across the board to all three panel members. And this is going to be, if you look at community pharmacy and you had the opportunity to make implement a change for the next that will cut across a number of years, and in 5 or maybe 10 years down the line, where do you see community pharmacy probably 5 to 10 years down the line? What would be your vision of community pharmacy based on what we do now? And as we said, with all the opportunities that Day Lewis has given all three members, not just panel members, even myself and Jill, where do you see pharmacy in the next 3 years? And first, I would go first of all to Kaz. I'll ask Kaz first.
Yeah, so similar to what Jill said, I can imagine community pharmacy just being like a mini sort of GP centre, like a mini health centre, health and wellbeing centre on the high street. Just anyone can go there and speak to a pharmacist, access services they need, such as contraception, minor ailments, advice, mental wellbeing advice as well. I think their pharmacists can do, pharmacy teams were doing that. So like social prescribing, so signposting towards charity organisations locally, just really being a mini sort of health hub. That's where I see pharmacy going, and all the dispensing will be done centrally in hubs. So dispensing will be done centrally, shipped to the pharmacy. So hardly any dispensing will be done in the pharmacy, just acute medicines. So it'll all just be services. I think that's where things are going to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Kaz. Same question to Nitika.
Yes, a great question. Very relevant question, because I think we're currently going through that transition slowly, but I do think as time goes on, the pace is going to pick up even quicker. So yeah, really similar to Kaz, I just think community pharmacy is going to be heavily service-based led. So prescriptions, medications, I think are going to dramatically decrease in terms of being dealt with in the community pharmacy. So I think, you know, the government have seen how useful we are and really how easy we are to access healthcare for patients. So I think from knowing that, I reckon, you know, robots and warehouses will be dispensing prescriptions, and we will be heavily service-based. You know, we'll be seen as clinicians. So we'll be doing consultation, like you said, documenting in patients' medical records, you know, giving them professional, safe advice on how patients can look after themselves and their well-being, and providing them many services where we can treat ourselves. And with prescribing, we can integrate that with prescribing as well. So amongst that, and I reckon a lot of it will be off-site as well. I don't think we'll always be based in community pharmacies now. I think they will make better use out of us because they've seen what we're able to bring to the public. And I think COVID really highlighted that. You see what we can bring to our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on that, Nitika. COVID definitely highlighted the importance of community pharmacy and what we can do when we actually are given the support by the government. So thank you very much and you made some important points there, which are also quite worthy of note. And hopefully in a few years' time, when we're watching this video again, we can say, well, Nitika and the panelists, they got it spot on there. So I'm going to ask the same question to Sharia, please.
I would just like to build on what Kaz and Nitika has said. I think community pharmacy is definitely going to be sort of the health hub of the high street. The traditional things that we associate with community pharmacy, whether it be dispensing and supplying medications, it's going to be something that is going to be done centrally from a hub, that's going to be done by robots. And the skills that we're learning at the moment, things like our consultation skills, becoming an IP, qualifying with our IP skills, those are the things which are going to be the selling point of community pharmacy. That's where we're heading. So whether it be, like we've mentioned already, whether it be signposting, actually prescribing, supplying, doing those private services, and even possibly even at a distance, like Nitika mentioned, lockdown was difficult for everybody, and we managed to do a lot of things at a distance. So it's not going to be something that we will be specifically based in community pharmacy in one site. It would be something that possibly we could be doing a lot of these services and providing these consultations at a distance as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kaz.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot as well. I could see all vaccinations being done in community pharmacy as well. I think that's the key thing. So already we're doing COVID vaccinations and flu, but childhood vaccinations will be done in community pharmacy as well, and travel vaccinations, and pharmacogenetics as well. That's going to be a massive difference to practice coming in the next few years. So yeah, those two things, I think, definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kaz. And I think you mentioned some important points there, because I remember many years ago, the idea that pharmacists were going to do flu vaccinations gave our GP colleagues nightmares, because they thought we were going to kill all the patients, and how dare us encroach on their territory and want to give vaccinations, flu vaccinations. I mean, what's that about? So it was a big hoo-ha at the time, but gradually we proved ourselves, and now it's going to get to a stage where actually flu vaccinations and all other form of vaccinations will probably be predominantly done in the pharmacy. And Dayloo has been a forward-thinking company, has given the opportunity for pharmacists, pharmacy trainees, and for our panel members who haven't watched the last video that we did, which involved our trainee pharmacists, please go and have a watch of that, and you'll hear some of the things that Day Lewis as a company that we do, and the opportunities that we give our trainee pharmacists and pharmacists to explore their passion, explore the different career paths and opportunities that are available within Day Lewis. And from the 3 panel members that we have today, you can see that Day Lewis is definitely a forward-thinking company, full of innovation, allows pharmacists to have that flexibility to do what they're passionate about, and I think we can actually see that from the 3 panel members that we've got here today. So thank you so much for those questions and for the answers that you've given. I'm now going to throw this open with the audience. And Jill, do we have any questions in the chat at all? Anything from our audience?
Yeah, we have a couple of things. So, and I've advanced them a little bit, but I'll throw them open to the panel. So, and I think, Kaz, you really did touch on this, but you could maybe expand a little bit more. So, first of all, they wanted to know, do you practically use your independent prescribing qualification in store? That's the first bit of the question. And how does it support you in your everyday role as a pharmacy manager? I think you touched on it a bit, but maybe if you can expand.
Yeah, so I think day to day, I'm using it in things like, so I mentioned the ear microsuction service. So as part of that service, they teach us how to examine the ear and identify if there's an ear infection present. So as part, now I've built that competence, I'm prescribing privately, atomized ear sprays and other private services as well use it. So things like we do like a urine dipstick tests, and then so I do that, and then I prescribe antibiotics. So it's mostly private service. Well, it's all private service at the moment, but I think next year they're going to trial the CPCS referrals and using the IPs for that. So then I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities this next year in community pharmacy.
Yeah, I can really see that working, actually, the referrals from the CPS service. I think it'll be a fantastic opportunity for independent prescribers, and we've got everyone's pretty much an independent prescriber on the call, so that's really good. So fantastic.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that happened also with the CPCS when it was being launched, and one of the things they were looking at, and that probably is going to come down the line, is actually the ability for the independent prescribers to prescribe as part of the final jigsaw to that. So where at the moment, maybe you have to refer them back to the doctor, but what they're looking at some point will be, instead of referring back, you actually just complete that consultation. You would actually prescribe based on a formulary that is agreed, and you would actually be able to look after that patient. And all you would then need to do is inform the patient's GP that this patient had this. That's where I believe the ability to read and write on the patient's records, which is the same records your GP have, pharmacists will be able to do that, and you'll be able to enter all the necessary details and information for other healthcare providers, so that they also know that you've actually seen this patient and you've treated this patient for whatever condition it is. So exciting times, and as we said, maybe in 10 years' time, we'll look back at this video and think, wow, Day Lewis is in the forefront of all of this. So yeah, let's hope that happens even earlier than anticipated. Thank you very much, Kaz. Does anybody else in the panel have any other questions, any further answers to that particular question before we move to the next one? Nitika and Sharia, any thoughts on that too?
No, all good. You guys have covered everything. Great job.
Okay, excellent. And Jill, any other questions?
Yeah, I've got another one here. So so within Day Lewis, and you guys have really highlighted all the different roles that you do, and it's really fantastic. So this person wants to know, within Day Lewis, are the opportunities location based? So for example, there's all these variety of roles that you guys are all doing. Are they available at all the sites within Day Lewis, or are they dependent on the demand in that area?
Okay, so I would refer that to Nitika and Sharia. So Nitika, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so we're widely, we've got quite a lot of locations that I think Jill might have mentioned previously, which is always really handy to take a look at beforehand. Or if you're still at university, you can also contact, if you've got a Day Lewis teacher practitioner at your university, you can contact one of us. In terms of being location-based, Day Lewis are quite flexible with offering different job roles depending on what the needs are in the area. You'll probably find there is something available within the area that you are, if you know that there's Day Lewis locally, because again, like I said, there's always opportunities for things. Day Lewis, again, are trying a new program out, which is 3 for 2 pharmacists, which is where they share pharmacists in each branch, which allows pharmacists a bit more flexibility in their working patterns. Again, experience does a lot. So it might be like Shreya did when she started on, was relieving. So it might be for the first year or so that you actually get to build a lot of experience, which might involve a little bit of traveling, which again, Day Lewis are really supportive with, where you can, again, learn your likes and your dislikes. Sometimes putting, the effort into different locations can really help initially. And Day Lewis are always quite good at catering, based on your family needs and personal needs. They're generally quite good at locating them.
Thank you very much, Nitika. And Shreya?
Yeah, I would agree with Nitika. I don't think your location should sort of bind you to a specific roles. I don't think that should hold you back. There's always plenty of opportunities. And of course, it's important and it does make things easier if there is a demand in where you are, but that shouldn't limit to, if you want to excel, if you want to progress, and you have sort of different aspirations and want to take on different roles. Specifically for myself, when I work my role as part of the pharmacy services team, location for me doesn't matter. Writing and reviewing PGDs and things like that can be done at a distance. I'm not bound by a particular location, and that gives me a lot of flexibility, which Day Lewis have supported. So for me, that sort of hasn't hindered my progress or sort of where my passion goes. So I would never say location should tie you back.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that response. Any further questions, Jill?
Yeah, so it's what we all want to know about, really. But does independent prescribing give pharmacists salaries benefits?
Okay, so I'm gonna start that with Nitika then.
In all honesty, I think regardless of independent prescribing or not, I think experience is the most thing that you can actually value yourself on. So things like salaries in any provision of pharmacy, really, as an industry, things like your salary are generally based on your experience. So again, seizing every opportunity that you get in your early years of your career generally dictate your pathway as to where you're going to go in the future. So salary generally is probably negotiable, but when you do start off in your career, it's a lot more about the experience. And then as you progress on, the more qualifications that you gain and the experience that you gain with it, through that then develops your salary as well, I would say.
Yeah, thank you very much. Does any of the panel members, Kaz, Sharia, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's right. So I think if you're pharmacists who are managing the larger pharmacies would have larger salaries, and smaller pharmacies, smaller size. So it's more, as Nitika said, like your experience level rather than the qualification.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think it's also about the bonuses that you get for providing other services, because when you work in a particular branch or you're working in as a relief, there's also targets and bonuses that would come along if you meet certain targets, irrespective of whether you're a relief or you're also a pharmacy manager. So that is also important, and that starts from your day one, really. But the key thing, and again, this is about Day Lewis as an employer, is actually giving you that opportunity. It's up to individuals to grasp that opportunity and run with it and try and make the most of the opportunities that is actually provided for you. We are a forward-thinking company, and we would give you that opportunity, but it's also down, as you can see, a lot of these opportunities that our panel members have is because they made use of it but most importantly, made themselves visible to people. And obviously, you let your work speak for you, and people do notice you, because pharmacy is a very small world anyway. So we always know the good pharmacists, and we always want to have them on board. So I hope that answered the question, or to the person who asked that question. Is there anything else, Jill?
No, that's only 3 sort of questions that we had, to be honest. So I don't know if anyone else wants to type one in from the audience before we go. But
Okay, so it doesn't seem as if we have any further questions. So what I would just like to say is, it's been a great pleasure to have our panel members here. We probably finishing a bit early, which is okay. I think the most important thing is, these are the details of our panel members. If you want to get in touch with any one of us, please feel free to email us and find out more about Day Lewis. Rupa Patel, as I said, is one of the Day Lewis directors. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but she's quite keen and want to hear from you guys, and want to know if you want to be part of the Day Lewis family. You're more than welcome. It has been a great pleasure, and I just want to find out, Emma, if there's anything else that you want from our panel members. Please let us know now. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, everyone. Thanks to the panelists, and thank you, Ade, for pulling this together. And thanks for everyone that spent the evening with us on this webinar. I personally found it very, very interesting and informative as a current trainee pharmacist, not knowing where I want to end up in the future. So I hope everyone else found it very beneficial as well. I'll just pop in the chat the feedback form. If guys, you have just a couple of minutes to spare to fill that out, that would be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Emma. So I'll just like to once again thank all our panel members, Kaz, Nitika, Sharia, and Jill for manning the chat. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out. I know it's been a busy day. We've got the snow, we've got the train strikes, we've got everything else going, but you still managed to attend this session. So we're really grateful for that. And I would like to, on behalf of Day Lewis, thank BPSA through Emma for actually giving us the audience to speak to your members. I know a lot of them will probably still be watching this on the recording. And please, if you're watching this if you're watching the recording, once again, please feel free to get in touch with any one of us if you do have any questions. If you're thinking about joining the family, please let us know. We're more than happy to help. There's also a relocation fees if you really want to feel that you want to move from up north to down south, or whatever it is you may be. We can accommodate you. So thank you so much. So if there isn't any more questions, I would like to say a big thank you to all of you. That marks the end of both webinars. We're not sure whether we'll be having another one in next year, but hopefully we'll be able to get in touch with BPSA again and see if we can organize another one. If obviously BPSA wants us back, that's important. So thank you so much. And for those of you who will be celebrating Christmas, please have a great Christmas. And for those who are not, well, I wish you a happy, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. Take good care and see you later. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks.
Okay, so that's it. So Emma, thank you once again. It's been a pleasure. And I wish you all the best in your exams.